Hello and welcome to News Round, where we give you a recap of stories that make the headlines during the week. I'm Dominic Iwiwu. The headlines: 5 persons confirmed dead in Port Harcourt helicopter crash. President Tinubu sacks 5 ministers, redeploy others. A House of Representatives Joint Committee visits the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, correctional facilities in Lagos over Idris Okuneya's detention, alleged privileges. Plus, a fuel tanker explosion near Uganda's capital leaves at least 11 people dead. We begin News Round from Rivers State, where 5 persons die from an helicopter crash that occurred in Port Harcourt, the state's capital. The accident occurred at 11:22 a.m. with 8 passengers on board along the waterways near Bonny Finima in Port Harcourt, when the helicopter, a Sikorsky SK-76 operated by East Winds Aviation, took off from the Port Harcourt military base, heading towards an oil rig facility. Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, says that the divers deployed to the scene of the helicopter crash on Thursday at the Atlantic Ocean near Finima, Bonny, off the coast of Port Harcourt, during a routine flight, and they're still at work to find the remaining bodies at the wreckage. In a statement sent through his X handle, Mr. Keyamo adds that the Aviation Ministry will be making a more comprehensive press statement as soon as it achieves some breakthrough. The total number of fatalities is now 5, as search and rescue continues by all relevant agencies. The Defense Headquarters has confirmed the arrest of a man they say is one of the founding members of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mr. Pius Igbo, just as it announced the death of 140 terrorists who were neutralized in the last 2 weeks. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the Director, Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, who confirmed the arrest at a bi-weekly briefing of operational activities of the armed forces, explains that Mr. Igbo is responsible for Osu General Area in Imo State.
It is the bi-weekly media briefing of the military on their operational activities across various theaters in the country.
Our troops are not relenting.
The Director of Defense Media Operations started the briefing with the announcement of the arrest of a man believed to be one of the founding members of the indigenous people of Biafra.
In the southeast, the troops of Operation Udoka, Forward Operational Base Osu, in a sting operation, apprehended a terrorist leader belonging to the indigenous people of Biafra and the Eastern Security Network terrorist group, known as Mr. Pius Igbo. He is an indigenous people of Biafra terrorist founding father responsible for Osu General Area in Imo State. Also, in a separate development, troops of Forward Operational Base Amaruku conducted a raid on an indigenous people of Biafra terrorist group commander's location. The raid was successful and led to the arrest of the commander, identified as Emmanuel Onwugu, in Imbanu, local government area of Abia State.
Major achievements of the troops within the last 2 weeks is also reeled out.
In the war against crude oil theft, as well as our effort to boost the nation's daily crude oil production, troops arrested 18 perpetrators of crude oil theft during the week. Troops also denied the theft of crude oil estimated to the sum of 1.7 billion naira during the week.
With the successes so far recorded, the military assures that it remains committed to defeating terrorists on the battlefield and in their hideouts for the peace and growth of Nigeria as a nation.
President Bola Tinubu has sacked 5 ministers in his cabinet and reassigned several in what the presidency says is a bid to reinvigorate the administration's capacity for optimal efficiency. The development, which was announced after the Federal Executive Council meeting, also sees 2 ministers scrapped, 1 renamed and 7 ministerial nominees being named.
The 12th Federal Executive Council meeting commences with the swearing-in of Abdullahi Bello as the chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau. The meeting proceeds into a closed-door session immediately afterwards. And a few hours later, some ministers arrive to speak on the resolutions of the meeting.
The erstwhile Ministry of Niger Delta has now been renamed Ministry of Regional Development. The President and members of Council today took a decision to rename that ministry so that all these other regional bodies will come under this new Ministry of Regional Development. There is no longer, from today, the Ministry of Sports Development. All activities and programs of the Ministry of Sports Development are now being brought under the National Sports Commission. Number 3, the Ministry of Tourism has also been scrapped. Activities of that ministry are now being brought under the Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and Creative Economy. So that ministry will now be called Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and Creative Economy.
A few minutes after the ministers leave, the special advisor to the president arrives with more developments.
The president has approved the immediate implementation of 8 far-reaching actions to reinvigorate the administration's capacity for optimal efficiency, pursuant of its commitment to deliver on its promises to Nigerians.
In addition to the developments earlier outlined by the Minister of Information, the special advisor announced new portfolios for some ministers. The Minister of State Education, Honorable Dr. Tanko Sununu, is now Minister of State Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. The Minister of State Health, Dr. Olatunji Alausa, now Minister of Education. The Minister of State Water Resources, Barrister Bello Goronyo, now Minister of State Works. Minister of Niger Delta Development, Honorable Abubakar Momo, now Minister of Regional Development, and the Minister of State Steel Development, Ubame Geri Amadu, now Minister of State Regional Development. Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Doris Uzuka Anite, to now be the Minister of State Finance. The Minister of Sports Development, Senator John Eno, will now serve as Minister of State Industry, Trade and Investment. Minister of State Police Affairs, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, to serve as Minister of Women Affairs. Minister of State for Youth Development, Ayodele Olawande, becomes the Minister for Youth Development. And the Minister of State Environment, Dr. Salako Adeboye, now to serve as Minister of State Health.
These are the following ministers who have been discharged, and as you know, the President met them this afternoon to thank them for their services for the nation. They are as follows: Barrister Huju Ken Oaneye, Minister of Women Affairs; Lola Adejon, Minister of Tourism; Professor Tahir Mama, Minister of Education; Abdullahi Muhammad Guazo, Minister of State Housing and Urban Development; Dr. Jamila Bio Ibrahim, Minister of Youth Development. So only 5 ministers were discharged.
He also announced 7 new ministerial nominees. Dr. Nentawe Yilwalda as Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. Megeri Dingyadi as Minister of Labour and Employment. Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu as Minister of State Foreign Affairs. Dr. Jumoke Oduwole as Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. Mukhtar Meha as Minister of Livestock Development. Honorable Yusuf Abdullahi Atta as Minister of State, Housing and Urban Development, and Suwaiba Ahmad as Minister of State Education, all subject to confirmation by the Senate. Two other appointments were announced, that of Shehu Diko as the chairman of the National Sports Commission and that of former Minister Sunday Dare as the special advisor to the president on public communication and orientation. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
To the National Assembly, where the Senate has passed a request from President Bola Tinubu for the confirmation of the appointments of 7 ministerial nominees announced on Thursday. President Tinubu's request seeking expeditious consideration of the requests was contained in a letter addressed to the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and read at the commencement of plenary.
As lawmakers reconvene on the third day of plenary for the week, a letter from President Bola Tinubu is read on the floor of the upper chamber.
Distinguished Senate President, request for confirmation of ministerial nominees. I am pleased to forward to the Senate the underlisted 7 nominees for confirmation as ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The request, which comes barely 24 hours after their nominations, is referred to the Committee of the Whole for legislative action as soon as possible.
Those again say nay. The ayes have it.
Meanwhile, against the backdrop of the newly created Ministry of Regional Development, the Senate began crucial amendments to the Zonal Development Commissions.
So the 3 reports will now be received by the Senate.
During a clause-by-clause consideration of the South-South Development Commission Establishment Bill, a slight ruckus, however, ensued. The committee had recommended that 15% of statutory allocations accruing to member states from the Consolidated Revenue Account be used to fund the commissions.
I'm not denigrating the need for these commissions. Let them go there, but we should know it, that in the long run, some of these states, maybe not now, are likely going to go to court to challenge the seizure of their money.
It's not coming from the operational account, it's coming from the Consolidated Revenue Fund. Excuse me, can I explain to you? No, can I explain to you? Now, what is being said here is that the equivalence of money going to each state, 15% or will now be put together, not the money itself.
The section is eventually put to a voice vote, and the 15% deduction is approved. The upper chamber also struck out some worrisome provisions of Section 23 of the establishment bills, conferring operational immunity on board and executives of the commissions. Consequently, the bills skills third reading and are passed.
The aggregated bills taken by this August Assembly be read a third time.
From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
You're watching News Round on Channels Television. Still ahead, we'll give you an update on the House of Representatives' visit to the reformatory institutions. Stay with us. The House of Representatives Committees on Reformatory Institutions and Financial Crimes embarked on a fact-finding mission to the Office of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and facilities of the Nigerian Correctional Services. The team is in Lagos to unravel if Nigerian cross-dresser Idris Okuneye, popularly known as Bob Risky, enjoyed special privileges while at the medium and the maximum security custodial centers, and the bribery allegation against the anti-graft agency is true.
The first port of call for the legislators is the EFCC office in Ikoyi, where they were briefed by officials of the anti-graft agency.
We had from the executive chairman was currency.
The team then proceeds to the Kirikiri medium and maximum prisons, where they were also received by officials of the Nigerian Correctional Service.
Which day was he taken to court? On 5th. On 4th. Where is the first place they take him to? Okay. After the court, he was where?
They took him to Ikoyi.
The same day they brought him here.
The same day they brought him here.
Yes, I want to know from 4 to 12, where is he?
From 4 to 12?
Yeah.
He's not in
With the tour completed, this is what the chairman of the two committees have to say.
We are here
to do what is called justice, to make sure the allegation is properly investigated, to find out, is it true that Bob Siki Idris is really detained, whether he served his jail terms in correction centers. And that is our aim of coming here, to verify it. After then, we put up our report before we can showcase the report to the public. We have come here, we find out from our information before us that truly is being detained here. But every other report will come up after they meet the committee, joint committee meets to look at it, both the EFCC angle, which the chairman of EFCC is here to speak on that, that will make our report known to the public and present to the House.
We have come, we have seen, we have some contradictions. We have also seen other things. It's left for the joint committee to go back and look at the reports. We are also going to interface with the board. Because the board suspended one or two of the staff of the correctional facility. We have also written to them to give us the report of their investigation, which should be ready by now. The committee will sit back and come up with a joint report that will be presented to the National Assembly on what we saw. You can be sure that we are going to say the truth of what we saw. There's not going to be any addition, there's not going to be any subtraction.
From your own record as a matron, the medical officer confirmed to you that he's a man. That is what we want to hear.
An accelerated conclusion to this bothersome allegation is uppermost in the minds of Nigerians who will be hoping that this expectation is eventually met.
Nigeria lost over $500 million to cybercrime in 2022, and that's coming from the executive chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Mr. Ola Olukayode. He made the remark at the National Cybercrime Summit in Abuja, where he also revealed that cybercrime accounts for a significant percentage of the 3,455 convictions recorded by the Commission in the past 1 year.
The arrival of Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, at the banquet hall of the Presidential Villa signals the start of the second edition of the National Cybercrime Summit organized by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC.
The EFCC have done it so well. It has never
In attendance are state governors and government officials, religious leaders and traditional leaders, captains of industry, the youth, amongst others. The EFCC chairman, Mr. Ola Olukayode, gives a highlight of the summit with specific attention to rescuing the young generation from the stronghold of cybercrime with workable solutions.
Cybercrime has become the third largest GDP in the world. Bringing it to Nigeria, in 2022 alone, Nigeria lost over $500 million to cybercrimes. These are the realities stoking the Commission's fight against these crimes. Cybercrime accounts for a significant percentage of the 3,455 convictions recorded by EFCC in my 1 year as the executive chairman of EFCC. We have reached a stage in our nation that necessity should compel a change of narrative from criminality to productivity, from idleness to usefulness, and cybercrime to cyber wealth. To this end, as part of our preventive research measures in line with Section 6 of the EFCC Establishment Act, the EFCC under my leadership is completing work on the Cybercrime Research Center.
The goodwill messages focused on the youth, turning their attention away from criminality to productivity.
What we need is aggressive engagement, so that a lot of people that have done this on the platter of they know, we readjust.
We have no reason to embark on such atrocities. Any temporary pleasure a youth might enjoy in cybercrime is short-lived.
The special guest of honor, the First Lady of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, in her keynote address, described the involvement of youth in cybercrime as a threat to national development.
The digital age, while offering unprecedented opportunities, has always exposed us to new vulnerabilities. It is therefore crucial that we address this challenge head-on and explore not only the harmful consequences of cybercrimes, but also the sustainable alternatives that can redirect our youth towards productive and positive endeavors. In this regard, parents play a pivotal role in raising and guiding their children and wards to be God-fearing, inculcating in them good values, morals, and a sense of patriotism.
She then launches the EFCC Emergency Response Center.
This is what we do. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Officially, it's been launched. The 247.
The National Cybercrime Summit aims to address cybercrime while exposing young Nigerians with strong tech skills to opportunities in various industries for legitimate wealth creation and an honest livelihood.
To the Green Chamber now. A bill to review the description of Islamic law in the Constitution has failed in the House of Representatives. Lawmakers argued along religious lines while agreeing that the Constitution describes Nigeria as a secular state. Details of the bill, which was sponsored by Honorable Aliyu Misau, were unknown to lawmakers who urged the sponsors to step it down until it has been properly distributed to them to study and make inputs.
The Deputy Speaker presides over the final plenary session of the week in the House of Representatives.
To supply new...
A motion of urgent national importance on the need for further sensitization by the central bank as the deadline of the legality of the old Naira notes approaches is taken and adopted without a debate.
To urge the Central Bank of Nigeria to issue more new 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes and begin the gradual withdrawal of the old notes from circulation before the deadline of December 31st, 2024.
Attention then turns to a bill for expansion of the Islamic law in the Constitution scheduled for second reading.
What I'm requiring is the removal of personal in Section 24 of the Constitution, Section 262, Section 277, and Section 288, so that other relevant laws, like the public, the commercial law, Islamic commercial law, the Islamic company law, the Islamic international law, can have a place in the Constitution.
Lawmakers calmly argue for and against the sensitive bill.
This is a very welcome development that it will give even an economic leeway for the nation to see the goodness of such practices in our financial institution to get the backup of the law.
The section you're referring to, if it is removed, the word personal is removed, the implication immediately is that Islamic law will now have a general application with respect to criminal law across the country.
Mr. Speaker, we have to be very, very cautious of whatever we do to alter the Nigerian constitution in a manner that will further widen the divides that we have as a country.
Because of the sensitive nature of this bill, my appeal is for us to step it down and let us have a full house and full time to discuss this bill.
The Deputy Speaker gently but firmly approaches the matter before putting it to vote.
It is our rule here that issues like this, we must have copies we look at. And if the copies are not there, we take another step. But I won't be taking that step from this chair. It will come from the House. So if the majority of the people say they don't have copies of this bill, whether it is good or bad, you don't have the copies, you need to have the copies for us to deliberate on it. Those in support that if you step down, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The nays have it.
In the meantime, a bill to amend the Tertiary Education Trust Fund Act 2011 to provide for additional conditions for assessing of funds for capital projects by beneficiary institutions has scaled second reading. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
News round ends in Uganda, where a fuel tanker explosion has killed at least 11, including 2 minors. The incident, which occurred in the suburb of Kilgowa, near Uganda's capital Kampala, also left several others injured. The injured were taken to the nearby health facilities for treatment. According to the district police commander of Kampala Metropolitan, Moses Nanko, the truck overturned after an accident and later exploded as residents rushed towards the vehicle with jerrycans to scoop fuel. Four buildings housing 9 shops were also destroyed in the explosion.
It was a single accident involving a fuel tanker which was moving on this Bombo Road. We have not yet ascertained whether the problem was with the vehicle or the driver. It got an accident in this spot, and the fuel started oozing out from the tanker. It was unfortunate that our people went to start fetching the fuel. So, and fuel being flammable, highly flammable, it caught fire. Because there was one lady who was roasting her maize there. Then there are homesteads, like you see, shops. So with the amount of fuel which was flowing, we cannot at this time know exactly the source of the fire.
And that's it on News Round. I'm Dominic Iwiwu. Stay safe.